Hello everyone, welcome to the Big Donch Podcast, episode 16. Today we're going to be talking about a lot of NFL, not covering too much of any other sports. It's been quiet in the MLB and, NBA, but might even cover some NHL today, talk about that. But the main focus around today's show is going to be the NFC North just being really close, and honestly the AFC in general being really close. We're going to talk about who should be MVP. It's very tight right now. Usually in previous seasons, usually we had the MVP by now. So we're going to discuss that today. We're going to talk a whole lot more. We're going to talk about COVID hitting the NBA and a lot of former players coming back. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this show. Let's get into it. I just want to mention that if you have not heard of the app Anchor, that it's the easiest way to make a podcast. It is free, and the creation tools allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone and computer. You could also distribute it to Spotify, Apple Podcast, and many more. You could also make money from your podcast, which is always good. It's everything that you need to make a podcast in one place. Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. So like always, we're going to start off with the Pittsburgh Steelers having a huge win over the Titans. Absolutely needed it. Good defensive game, especially in the second half. We came up clutch. Minka Fitzpatrick got 100 tackles of the year with that game. Schobert, our linebacker, had a huge pick six. Joe Hayden showing why he needs to be on that field. TJ Watt showing why he needs to be on that field. There was a play, him getting double teamed. Okay, well, usually always gets double teamed, but this one, he had two offensive linemen have both their arms around TJ Watt, and he still made the sack. Just simply insane. He broke the Steelers' all-time sack record. He's still leading right now. I'm pretty sure at 17.5 sacks. But he's still leading. In my opinion, Defensive Player of the Year. Should have won it the past 2 years, but it is what it is. Just playing absolutely insane. I don't know how he does it. I just don't know how he can be so consistent. And I don't know, especially with missing games. That could be the only problem why he won't win Defensive Player of the Year is because he missed games. But other than that, I mean, this should be all his. That award should be all his. Without him, the Steelers' defense would be absolutely terrible. He's literally our most valuable player every year that he's playing. So Defensive Player of the Year, I'm all for it. Steeler fan or not. I mean, Myles Garrett, he was close, but I think he's starting to fade away. Parsons, I mean, he could be close. For a rookie winning Defensive Player of the Year, definitely could be close, but I don't think that. Definitely Rookie of the Year he will win, but other than that, I really can't think of any other players who could win Defensive Player of the Year that are really close up to TJ Watt. Comeback Player of the Year could be Nick Bosa. I think he will win it. Dak Prescott and Joe Burrow were up there at first, but they started to have bad games. Nick Bosa is really the only one who's being consistent, but TJ Watt, simply insane. Now, speaking of the AFC North, my intro, with the Steelers win, the Bengals winning, the Ravens losing, and the Browns losing, this division absolutely stacked. If we're taking a look at the standings right now, Bengals are leading the division 8-6. Baltimore Ravens are 8-6. Pittsburgh Steelers are 7-6-1. I'm mad because we should be 8-6. Should never tied with the Ravens. And the Cleveland Browns 7-7. Their season's starting to go downhill with all these COVID and injuries. Just not looking too good for the Browns. But for Steelers, Ravens, and Bengals, absolutely looking insane. Definitely the best division of football right now. But I don't know. If I could tell you who's going to win this division, it's probably not going to be the Steelers. All right, I'll agree with that. We're looking for more of the wild card spot. But if I could pick who's winning this division, I don't know. It's really hard. For Ravens, they're just dealing with a lot of injuries, but they're still playing good. They played really good against the Packers, especially with Huntley playing. He played a great game. But just the way the Ravens are playing, I'll give props to them. I usually don't give props to the Ravens that much, but with the amount of injuries they're having, losing all their star players, besides really Lamar Jackson, but of course he's dealing with injuries as well. And then being at an 8-6 record, competing every game, just got to give them props. But I'm going to favor the Bengals to win this division. We all have hard schedules, all in the AFC North. I mean, Steelers play the Chiefs this week. Bengals play the Chiefs still. Ravens got to play us one more time. We got to play the Browns one more time. It's a very tough schedule for all these AFC North teams. It's going to be a battle. It's going to come down to the wire. As a Steeler fan, we're probably not going to win the AFC North, and I accept that. We should have never got swept by the Bengals. Us getting swept by the Bengals obviously did not help us. We got to, of course, win out for the Steelers. We got to beat the Ravens one more time. We got to beat the Browns one more time, and we have to beat the Chiefs. The Chiefs are dealing with a lot of COVID problems. They have Kelsey, Hill, and Bucker, their kicker, out. But I don't know if they're going to be out completely for the game, but we'll see with that. But that AFC North is really down to the wire between the Ravens and Bengals. I mean, Steelers, if they went out, and surprisingly, the Bengals and Ravens continue to lose along with the Browns. Who knows? I mean, maybe even the Browns have a chance to win the AFC North. Definitely the best division in football right now. Has been the best division of football for a while, honestly. It was always the Steelers, Bengals, and Ravens always at it. The Browns were, of course, always dead bottom, but now they're getting good, of course. Made the playoffs last year, destroyed the Steelers. AFC North, definitely one of the best divisions in football. AFC, in general, is very good as well. Even though probably the best teams in the NFL are in the NFC side, the AFC is definitely the most competitive. So who is the MVP? Cooper Kupp, Jonathan Taylor, or Aaron Rodgers, or even somebody else? I honestly think it comes down to them. Tom Brady was there for a while. He had a bad game, got shut out against the Saints. One bad game like that this late into the season really could just take away that MVP season. So right now, if I can narrow it down, it's Cooper Kupp, Jonathan Taylor, Aaron Rodgers. In specific order, it would be Aaron Rodgers, Jonathan Taylor, and Cooper Kupp. Very close between Taylor and Kupp. They could be tied too, in my opinion. Aaron Rodgers is still playing amazing. He's the best player in the football right now. Cooper Kupp, best wide receiver in football by a lot, honestly. And Jonathan Taylor. Thing is, I don't really see Jonathan Taylor winning is because, one, Derrick Henry. If Derrick Henry didn't win MVP last year with the season he had, I don't see Jonathan Taylor winning it. Honestly, I don't see anybody playing a better season this year than Aaron Rodgers did last year either. Cooper Kupp and Jonathan Taylor could compete for Offensive Player of the Year. That, I honestly don't know. I really don't know who could win that. Cooper Kupp's playing amazing, but so is Jonathan Taylor. They're both very consistent. It's really going to come down to the wire once again. Definitely two all-pro at their position, 100%. But Offensive Player of the Year, at least, I really don't know. It's definitely going to come down to those two, 100%. MVP, I feel like it's going to be Aaron Rodgers. I think he deserves it. As of now, there's 3 games left, of course. Anything could happen. But it's very, very tight. One of the most tightest MVP races, honestly, we had in a while. MVP right now. Too early to tell still. It really comes down to these last 3 games. Crazy how quick the season's going, too. And even though we had an extra week also, just really going by really quick. Probably one of the fastest NFL seasons I ever experienced. I'm not going to lie with you. I'm not lying with you. Last night was Tuesday Night Football. A bit rare. I mean, obviously it wasn't rare last year either, but just for COVID, Tuesday Night Football, kind of like a joke. But hey, football every day. Don't mind it. We had the Eagles beating the Washington football team, and then the Rams beating the depleted Seahawks. I mentioned this all year. Just the Seahawks. Just a shame what's going on with them. DK Metcalf not getting a lot of targets. Russell Wilson not playing the best he is. Their defense is not as good as they used to be. Seahawks are just struggling. I don't know what it comes down to. Is it a quarterback problem, a coaching problem, a defensive problem? I think it's just all around. They got to get it together. Russell Wilson's still a great athlete. He can still do it, but just this year he's playing really bad. Compared to other previous years. Running backs, they've been dealing with a lot of injuries. Chris Carson can't seem to stay healthy. DK Metcalf not getting many targets. Someone who has him on his fantasy team, just kind of disappointing. I don't know if that's his fault or just Russell Wilson not being able to get the ball off. Maybe because of his offensive line. Who knows? Seahawks are struggling. Rams continuing to stay hot. They're 10-4 right now. I'm pretty sure they're leading their division, unless the Cardinals are up there. Cardinals, they lost to the Lions. Absolutely insane that happened. But the Cardinals and Rams are tied at 10-4. Glad to see the Lions win, though. I mean, even though they tied with us, kind of got me mad, but still, it's the Lions. They've been a poverty franchise basically their whole career. So I was glad to see them win. We saw the Texans beat the Jaguars 30-16. Of course, going back to Tuesday Night Football with the Washington football team and Eagles. Eagles won 27-17. Jalen Hurts had a pretty good game. 3 total touchdowns, 296 yards. Miles Sanders dropped him on my fantasy team. He ends up putting up 131 yards. Dallas Goedert, 7 receptions for 135 yards. Definitely a sleeper tight end. I really didn't know who he was really going into this year. They traded Ertz. I'm thinking that was a terrible decision, but Goedert is definitely filling that spot. Definitely their best receiver on that team, honestly. Probably him and can't even think of his name from Alabama. How could I forget his name? Oh, my goodness. Can't believe I forgot. Anyway, he's obviously very, very good. But let's move on now. I think that's all for the NFL. Well, going back to the Steelers, we play the Chiefs this week. That'd be very, very, very good game for us. Has to be. Has to be healthy. Let's take a look at some NFL matchups this week. Let's see quick. Going to my ESPN. Like to have all these tabs set up during I do this podcast. All right, some big matchups. Okay. Thursday Night Football, the Niners versus Titans. Two teams looking to take their division, or at least, fighting for spots in the playoffs. We have Saturday on Christmas. Love Christmas. Browns versus Packers. Colts versus Cardinals. Colts versus Cardinals definitely going to be the best game. Then Sunday, we have our regular games. We have the Ravens versus Bengals. Going to be a very good game. Very must-win game for both. Rams versus Vikings. Must-win game for the Vikings. Bills versus Patriots. Must-win game for that division. Jaguars and Jets. Battle of the top picks. Giants and Eagles. Must-win game for the Eagles. Buccaneers and Panthers. I mean, I wouldn't say it's a must-win for the Buccaneers, but they got to win to basically solidify their spot. Chargers and Texans, definitely a must-win for the Chargers. Bears and Seahawks, I mean, must be a must-win for the Bears if they want to keep Nagy, but I think his chances are running out. Obviously, I have Steelers versus Chiefs, must-win for the Steelers. Broncos and Raiders, must-win for both teams. Washington and Cowboys, I think Washington's chances are pretty done, but Cowboys, of course, still staying alive. Dolphins and Saints on Monday, must-win for both. So this is going to be a very, very good week of football. A lot of teams who are really in must-win situations. Definitely going to be a good week of football. Excited to check it out. So let's move on to the NBA right now. They're hitting a lot with COVID. And because of that, former players are getting signed. Isaiah Thomas, he's been around the league a lot ever since leaving the Celtics. He got added to the Lakers. Had a pretty good game his first game. Joe Johnson just announced today he was signing with, I forget actually who, but he's coming back to the league. Very old. I think Celtics. I'm sorry. Coming to the Celtics. Lance Stevenson coming back as well on a 10-day contract. We also saw some younger players come up like Mac McClung. He went to the Bulls from the Lakers G League team. But honestly, though, with this COVID going around, it's kind of a good thing for these younger players or older players trying to get their, another shot at the league. Definitely get a chance. We're seeing a lot in the NFL as well. We're seeing a lot of practice squad members, especially on the Steelers, come up because of COVID injuries. I'm sure it's coming a lot around the league also. People are getting placed on the COVID list. So practice squad players, younger players, older players are coming to get their second chance. So it's definitely good to see that wise. I guess that's a positive thing you could say coming from this COVID situation in the league. But yeah, definitely a lot of younger players or older players just getting another shot, or even their first shot at the league, at the big league. So definitely cool to see. In NBA, though, we saw the Sixers beat the Celtics finally. Usually, every time we play the Celtics, they usually own us, but we've been doing too good so far. Let's take a look at some scores of yesterday. We'll talk about some scores of today. We have, of course, Saturday Christmas basketball coming up. Always a fun day. Then we have yesterday, we had the Pacers losing to the Heat, 125-96, with the Knicks beating the Pistons, Pelicans beating the Blazers, Mavericks beating the Timberwolves, Suns destroying the Lakers. That was a big game. They have Booker with 24 points, LeBron James with 34 points. We got the Wizards versus Nets game actually postponed. Today we have the Magic versus Hawks, Cavs versus Celtics, Rockets versus Bucks, Nuggets versus Thunder, Clipper versus Kings. Kings are having an okay year compared to usual. They're at 13-19. Raptors versus Bulls, that's probably going to be the best game, but actually that was postponed, so never mind that. Saturday, let's look at the Christmas matchups. Hawks versus Knicks at 12 o'clock. 2:30, we have Celtics versus Bucks. 5 o'clock, Warriors versus Suns, probably going to be the best game. 8 o'clock, we have Nets versus Lakers, depending on injuries. That could be a very good game as well. And then 10:30, we have Mavericks versus Jazz. But Christmas basketball, always the best. Not as good as it used to be, honestly. It used to be fun when the Cavaliers would play the Warriors. That was always good matchups, but I don't know. Maybe this year it'll be something different. Take a look at these ticket prices. I always love checking out ticket prices. The Mavs versus Jazz as low as $12 for Christmas Day basketball. Come on now. I'd love to go to that game. Celtics versus Bucks, $32. The former champions only selling tickets for as low as $32. We have the Hawks versus Nets at 96. Nets versus Lakers at 133. That's the lowest ticket. But I don't know. I'm surprised, though, they sell out like that. Like, I don't know. It's Christmas Day. I always wondered, like, what goes through these fans' minds, though. Like, I'm not saying it's wrong and definitely a cool experience to see, but, like, Christmas Day, going to see a basketball game, I don't know. Definitely cool to see, though, of course. But same thing like Thanksgiving and all, like, going to see the Lions on Thanksgiving. Like, what? Like, who would want to see that? No disrespect. But that's kind of funny to me, in my opinion. But it is what it is. Let's move on from the NBA. Not much going on besides, of course, though, COVID injuries. I keep saying COVID injuries. COVID list. MVP right now, too early to tell. Some sleeper all-stars, definitely DeMar DeRozan can definitely get into the all-star game this year. Not much about NCAA men's basketball. Duke is playing Virginia Tech right now. Not right now, but tonight at 9 o'clock. Should be an easy win for Duke in North Carolina. MLB, not much going around. Fighting, to wrap it up, we had Jake Paul versus Woodley. What a knockout by Jake Paul. But from that, people are somehow saying it's staged. At first, I was like, no way it's staged. I still don't think it was staged, but like, they're coming out with some conspiracy theories, of course, trying to do everything they could to put Jake Paul down. My opinion was a stage, no. I mean, who would want to volunteer get knocked out like that? Getting knocked out is not a good thing to your body. Okay, you get a concussion, your brain hits against your skull, you're out cold. It's not good. All right, brain damage is permanent. Okay, you get brain damage, you lose stuff in your brain. It's permanent. It's not something that can just heal like other parts in your body. It's not a fun thing to do. So I don't know. I just don't see how Jake Paul. I'm sorry. Just don't think how Tyron Woodley would volunteer for that. And he's a fighter with former experience, more than Jake Paul. I'm sure he would know the consequences of getting knocked out more. But then of course we saw conspiracy theories on TikTok, on Instagram, and everything. Jake rolled his glove to show that he was gonna go for a knockout punch, and I guess Tyron dropped his guard. But here's the thing: Jake Paul was throwing body shots all match. So that's what sets up for that knockout. You're going to fake that body punch. You're going to look like you're going to throw that body punch. You drop your guard because that's just natural instinct, and it goes to the head. So I don't know. I don't know if that's just a smart move by Jake or they're calling a stage. I don't know. I don't want to call it staged. I don't know why anybody would want a stage get knocked out. Staged, to the cards, all right, that's one thing to believe. Getting to the cards and losing on the cards by the judges, that's one thing. But, getting knocked out cold like that, hitting the canvas like that, I don't know. I just don't see how anybody could just volunteer to do that, especially someone like a professional fighter, somebody who has the money. It's not like somebody off the streets who doesn't have any money, or even me, for example, somebody who doesn't have the most money, just volunteering to get knocked out for $1 million or something like that. I wouldn't do that. Just that's dumb to the body. My life, my health is more important than $1 million, in my opinion. I don't know. It's just me. I know a lot of people are different, but I don't know why anybody would stage getting knocked out like that. Took a punch, definitely. Just not good for the body. But what's next for Paul? I want to see him face a boxer. Everybody else does. He's looking for that Masvidal fight, but I don't think he'll get it because the UFC, and he's under contract. I kind of think it'll be dumb to fight him anyway. I don't know why he can't just fight for a boxer. If I'm Jake Paul right now, or if I'm just a fan of boxing, I would like to see Jake Paul fight. Doesn't have to be a current boxer right now. It doesn't have to be no Canelo. Obviously, you get destroyed by Canelo. It doesn't have to be no young prospect. If I'm Jake Paul, I'm trying to look for a former boxer, a former actual champion boxer, or a good boxer. All right, Julio Chavez Jr., he's up there. Obviously, he's not as good as other boxers, but he's definitely someone to compete with Jake Paul. He's former. Now he lost, I remember, Anderson Silva in a boxing match last year or this year. I'm not sure when, but he's kind of washed now, but he's still a boxer. He's still a professional boxer who was good at his time. I'd like to see Jake Paul fight him. Le'Veon Bell was in the news. He was just trying to collect the paycheck. He went from wanting to fight Jake Paul to sign him from the Bucks in just 24 hours. So I doubt we see that. Canelo, of course, is up there. That's all money. I'd love to see Jake Paul fight Canelo, just to see Canelo just do what he got to do. I don't know who else is up there. Tyron Woodley's, of course, done. Tommy Fury, that's who. I'd like to see that. I'd really like to see him next. And then, or just once. I just like to see him fight Tommy Fury. I wish we got to see that fight. That fight would have been way more exciting than Tyron Woodley. But that is what it is. I don't know. I don't want to give too much attention to Jake Paul right now because, obviously not a real boxer, but I want to see somebody compete with him. I want to see him have an actual challenge. His last challenge was the first Woodley fight. He obviously won, but then second fight knocked him out. I don't know. I want to see Jake Paul actually get put under pressure like that. I don't know. It is what it is. Jake Paul versus Woodley. We're not seen a lot of fights lately because, of course, Christmas is coming up in the new year, but 2022 is going to be a great year. Hopefully we get to see Canelo fight at least twice. We see Fury fight at least twice. Joshua, Wilder, those big guys, names who have been kind of quiet this year, only had 1 or 2 fights. I'd like to see Usyk get in there. And of course, some of the younger divisions. I want to see Ryan Garcia get back at that. I want to see Gervonta Davis fight some good competition. Devin Haney fight each other. I want to see, of course, like every boxing fan wants to see champions go at it. I want to see Loma fight, a good lightweight. I'd like to see him fight after somebody up. George Kambosos, Isaac Cruz. I like to see those guys go at it. They deserve it. They need to. But yeah, fighting, just a great sport. UFC and boxing, great sport. UFC, we're going to see a lot. Hopefully I see Conor McGregor come back. I think he will come back this year, but I want to see him come back and get a win. Mike Chandler would be a good matchup. Maybe, Poirier again. I doubt we see that though, but I don't know. Good year for boxing and UFC we're going to see this year. But that wraps up episode 16 of our Sports World Weekly, the Big Donch Podcast. We talked about the AFC North being close, the AFC in general being close. Who is the MVP? We talked about COVID hitting the league in the NBA and players getting signed and taking the opportunity from that. And we wrapped it up with some fighting with Paul versus Woodley and what's next for Jake Paul. Hope you guys enjoyed. Make sure to subscribe to my YouTube, Big Donch. Help me get to 6,000 subscribers. And if you're not already, follow me on Spotify and Anchor for my podcast. If you're listening to the Big Donch Podcast, tune in next week for another episode.